Welcome to the Art Center and specifically the Corrine Woodman Gallery. This time around we have a very special exhibit in connection with What Will Nature Do about climate science. We now have a project headed by artist Karin Bolender, and she has designed this learning project for second and third graders and fifth graders from Muddy Creek School and Kathryn Harris School, also known as Jaguar School. It is called Welcome to the Secretome, and she will tell you more about it. Well, hi Karin, I'm glad to see you. This is an exciting project that we talked about for a year and a half, I think. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, one thing that's very exciting about this project, as you know, is that it really began with the Microbiomes to See the Unseen show in 2017. In the invitation to local artists to culture something in our environments and then come to the lab and view those cultures in the microscope. And that invitation really opened up the world of the Secretome for me.
So what does Secretome mean?
Well, Secretome is a scientific term that is in fairly new usage from what I gather, and it is a term that, I will start by saying I am not a scientist, so I don't know that I'm the best person to explain how this works, but what I gather is that the secretome is the sphere in which biological cells and entities secrete and exchange
Life
chemicals.
happens.
Life happens in the secretome,
Okay.
exactly. It happens unseen in the
Okay.
secretome.
So your eyes were open for the secretome.
Yes. And I actually discovered the word secretome and the study of secretomics, as it's called, through a particular microbe that was identified by one of the microbiologists at that lab session. And because he looked at what I had cultured, which happened to be my donkey's tongue, and he was very excited about what he said, that looks like bacillus because of its motility. It was a microbe that was moving a lot on the dish, and that was actually what stirred my imagination, because I thought, wow, so all of these traces, all of this growth and this movement that you see are records of lives, actual lives that have been here, and this is a trace. So it was a story. And that is where it connected over to the idea that these images are telling stories.
Okay, so you translated this project that you've done yourself in 2017 to now to do with elementary school students, I think. So what do you feel is so important in art and science as a combination to you?
Oh, well, that's a really rich question, and I think that the two work together in really important ways. And for me, I'm careful to say that I'm not a scientist, because I feel that the particular forms of discipline and training that are involved in science are ones that I am not trained in, and more than that, actually probably push against to some degree, because that's just like my impulse as an artist is to say, okay, well, what if it's not that thing? What if it's, and science does that too. I feel like both art and science are pushing into the unknown, and that's an important relationship.
A similar, curiosity within the scientist and the artist, but expressing it a little bit different.
Yes, and with a drive towards the unknown, like finding what is the thing that isn't yet named.
They both want to know how the world works. Yeah. How does this particular project fit into your own art practice?
Oh, well, this project, more broadly, the Secretome, project, which I've also started to think of now as a technique, that the actual way of interacting with a place through looking at its subvisible layers is a technique that can be used in these different projects. And I've been using it in a lot of different collaborations with dancers in Sweden, and with an art farm collective also in Sweden, where we've engaged it in a number of different ways. They're called Cultivator. And anyway, so I think of it as a technique, and what the technique does is allow us to interact with that sort of a portal into the present but not visible. So there are these presences that we're sort of tapping into through this project, and then at the same time sort of tapping into other ways of knowing, because you know, it isn't just about seeing something and naming it, it's about engaging with an abstract image that is also real, because there are real things there, and you know, playing along that line of like, what's the real and what's the imagined.
So what did you ask the students to do?
So every project takes a slightly different shape, including the work done with the students at Jaguar, Kathryn Harrison, and the work done at Muddy Creek. At Muddy Creek, we really had an optimal situation, because we had a teacher, Tyler Wilson, who was then teaching the 2nd and 3rd grade mixed class. And he engaged the project over a long time, over months actually, beginning right when the kids first came back to the school grounds after time away from, you know, COVID. And then over that time, they, in several stages, first went out and cultured a spot somewhere in the landscape that drew them. So we asked them to go and find a portal that would lead them into the Secretome, and they cultured that. And then I took the dishes home. Each kid had their own dish, and they also had these handmade swap sticks that we made on the spot, and then went out into the land and looked for, you know, an interesting plant or a hole in the ground or some water or a flower or something that drew them in. And then they cultured that, and then I took all the dishes home and photographed them, and I looked for the most interesting figures, configurations, and then each kid's map went back to them, and we went back to the places that they cultured with their maps. And at that point, we suggested that the map is a treasure map, and it leads them through their portal into this realm of the Secretome where their stories begin. So that was the basic, you know, there was multiple visits, even with the classes at Jaguar. We got 2 visits where we cultured, and then we went back to their spots with their maps. And so that's documented. And then from there, they wrote their stories. So that the maps were...
And the stories, were they specifically about the culture or about that secret world of the Secretome?
Yes, so the only real parameter we put on the stories was that they in some way engaged the portal, that they passed through the portal in some way, so that they touch that place that they began their once they were through the portal, anything goes.
Okay, so you combined science techniques and science culturing, that's science, and making tools, and then using their imagination to talk once they've gone through the portal.
Yeah.
So they're outside and inside, and how long did it take per student to do something like this?
Well, in Mr. Wilson's class, they did multiple drafts of their maps, multiple drafts of their stories. So all told, they spent 3 months on the project.
All right.
They began in March and finished, I think, on the last day of school in June. I made this collection of the stories and the maps that there was one class, there was a second class that they started late and they didn't get their stories done, but I included their maps. Anyway.
So what was, for you, the most fun, favorite part?
I really loved all of it. But I think, seeing the depth and the detail and the extent to which they really engaged with these images and that they became these stories, and I mean that's really seeing where they took it is certainly the most enjoyable part for me.
So do you think it was a successful collaboration between science and art?
Well, that's a tricky question, because I feel like we definitely used the tools of science. I think that one of the objectives of this project was to stimulate wonder and to encourage questioning and to encourage encounter. So that was successful. We did that. In terms of thinking about its relation to the climate science show, we didn't talk particularly about climate science per se, but what we did do was emphasize the importance of direct engagement with a place, with a watershed, with the land. So.
Well, I think we should ask the students what their favorite part was. So thanks, and I'll be looking forward to some students.
What did we do first? You remember?
Well, we started with doing the cotton swabs. We got, I think it was some river water, rainwater, and we put it on something that we want, like sticks and flowers and grass and dirt. We put it into this little container of whatever it is. I don't know. Agar.
The culture dish.
And then after that, we waited a whole while, and then after that, had our first Secretome map. We got our maps later, the next week, and then we went out again and tried to see if there was anything on our maps that looked like on the school too, and I found some things.
And so what's that?
That is how mine looked when we magnified them.
And what are those lines and stuff?
That's like all the bacteria and stuff. I used these little trails to go places in the field.
And then what did we do? What were we looking for when we took the maps out into the schoolyard? Do you remember?
Like a trail to lead to something important or something that might inspire you. Our story, and first we did a drawing, and then we made a story based on the drawing. We also added some things that we'd done in the story to the drawing. And then we painted our maps. I didn't really get that much to paint. All the lines kind of showed of where, different things like the elf town and the school and all that kind of stuff would be.
But you followed your map into an adventure?
Well, I didn't follow it past the decayed sheep.
What was it like following an imaginary map in a real place?
Fun.
How was it fun?
Well, because sometimes it leads you smack into like a tree. It did that twice to me. First, the main characters are named Shania and Bravita, and they're twins. First, that's their house, and then they escape because they have to go rescue their grandfather.
Area. That's the Catacorn Meadow. And catacorns are this mixture between cats and unicorns. So basically cats with horns.
Fight off these weird 9-headed alien thingies that have red eyes. Then they go through here. To get to the Silver Castle, they have to use the sword and the keys. Wait, first they battle the dragon, but I didn't draw that. But then they use the keys to go and unlock it. Then this is where the grandfather is. And then they go all the way back home with their grandfather. That's the end.
And can you tell us what your favorite part of this project was?
Probably the writing and the drawing, and also the making up the characters, because I got them from a book called Wild Witch, and that's one of my favorite books.
Can I ask you what was your favorite part about this whole project?
I liked drawing the map because it was super fun. I also liked doing the writing. That was pretty fun, like making up the characters. I did like a little paper before I wrote the story. Well, when I was writing the story about names of characters and stuff.
And I followed the branches and the lines, and one led me into a bunch of thorns, which I got poked a lot.
Did the project make you feel any kind of any differently about the schoolyard at all? About the grass or the flowers or any of the things that you interacted with and when you were out there?
Well, I used to think that flowers were kind of boring, but now I sometimes see the Secretome map. They're kind of more interesting than I thought.
Welcome to the Secretome is up October 13 through November 20. We hope to see you. Our opening hours are Tuesday through Saturday from 12 to 5.